What's up, Tesla family? It's Ray J back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's happening with Tesla's SPY in the overall markets. I'm going to break down some big data that's coming out for tomorrow and earnings, and why Tesla's seeing a bit of a dip right now as we're seeing a new catalyst that's coming out. But just note that I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out my Weeble link. If you deposit any amounts of money, you're guaranteed 12 of free stocks. If you deposit $500, you're guaranteed 20 in total. Deposit $2,000 or more and you're guaranteed 40. The offer ends in just 3 days. Anyways, now let's talk about what's happening with the market. So, as far as the market's going so far, we are seeing the market attempting to hold up, but Tesla did not do a good job at holding above 270. This was partly because of another piece of news and because of historical resistance levels that Tesla ended up entering. So the question is, what's going to happen from this point on? Let's first talk about the news, then I'll break down more details about what's happening with the market and Tesla stock. So here's what's happening in the news right now. There's actually a lot of news coming out about how three Tesla insiders, including Elon Musk's own brother, are preparing to sell about $300 million worth of Tesla stock. Could it be because of the fact that they think there's a recession coming? Could it be because of something else? Who knows, guys? I don't know the entire details about that. I just want to say that this is still big news. And here's the reason why we know this. So Tesla had a 10Q SEC filing report, and they disclosed that three of their board members, including Chairman Robin Denholm and then Kimball Musk, the CEO Elon Musk's brother, have signed new arrangements to sell a lot of shares last quarter. So on July 25th, 2024, Robin came out. He's one of the directors of Tesla. He adopted a rule 10b5-1 that's a trading agreement to sell about 674,000 shares of common stock. And the arrangements expire on June 18th, 2025. For Kimball Musk, on July 31st, 2024, he's also another director. He had the same role that he adopted. His agreement shows a sale of about 152,000 sales under certain conditions, of course. And it's going to be expiring on May 30th, 2025. And then finally, the last person, they basically have the same thing going on. They can sell up to 300,000 shares, and that's going to be expiring on February 28th, 2025. So very interesting stuff. Could it be because of something that they see that's going on? Could it be because of something different? Did they plan on this from the past? I mean, there's a lot of different reasons for why they could be making this, decision. Could be personal reasons. We don't know the exact details once again. Could it be because they were worried about a recession potentially coming? So it could be all these different reasons. But this is something that's very important for the filing report, and it gives us more insights about what could end up happening. So with this happening, with a lot of big board members selling hundreds of millions of dollars worth of stock, that's not the best of news for the share price. That's one of the many reasons why Tesla ended up selling off a bit today. Now, despite that, just know that Tesla still has very good ratings from analysts. Trust Securities gave Tesla a hold rating. Piper Sandler gave Tesla an overweight rating. Then Stifel gave Tesla a buy rating. So that's bullish news, at least for the long term. The price price ratio is also doing a good job at holding up. It's starting to dip a little bit because Tesla was due for a small pullback. I was talking about this in my video from yesterday. So that was correct. Tesla did get that bit of a pullback. Also know that Tuesdays tend to be green about 51.4% of the time historically. We tend to see more volatility at 9 o'clock a.m. and then 2 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Although October is historically a weaker month, November tends to be stronger. Will we see the opposite this time around? Will November be weaker? We'll just have to wait and see. And besides that, there's not really much coming out for this. Volume is slowing down. It's now at about 103 million. So we're seeing Tesla's volume decreasing as once again, we're seeing things kind of slow down ever since the massive volatility last week. So that's something that's worth noting for Tesla as this thing is slowing down. But what else is going to affect the share price? That's why I want to talk about the big news for the broader markets, and I'll talk about the stocks. So tomorrow, it's going to be Tuesday. Okay. Today, we just got Ford announcing their earnings. They didn't do too well when it comes to guidance. But then tomorrow, before market open, we have SoFi and PayPal announcing their earnings before market open. We also have like McDonald's, Pfizer, Royal Caribbean Group, and a bunch of others. After the market closes, we have AMD, Alphabet, and Snap. So get ready for these big earnings. But the big one's going to be PayPal for the morning. Get ready for some high volatility from the NASDAQ and the QQQ because of that. And this may affect Tesla to some extent. Now, there's more data coming out. Tomorrow is going to be, once again, Tuesday, October 29th, 2024. Before the market opens, it's just very, very minor wholesale inventories data. But at 10 o'clock a.m., we have the Joel's job openings report, consumer confidence, and the job quits report as well at 10 a.m. So watch to see what that leads to 30 minutes after the market ends up opening. This is going to be very important. So just to clarify, Ford had their earnings today. It just came out. The earnings were not that good. The share price is down 6% right now because they did good when it comes to EPS and revenue. Their EPS was a beat at 49 cents adjusted above expectations. Their automotive revenue is at 43.07 billion. That's above expectations, but the share price is down because of the fact that their guidance was not that strong for the end of the year. So just keep that in mind. That's why Ford is a little bit slow. For tomorrow, we have PayPal announcing their earnings. We're going to be watching to see what they end up announcing. This is going to be very important for tech, and we're expecting $1.08 per share for their EPS and $7.86 billion for their revenue. EPS is expected to be a little bit weak year over year with with it being down like 16.9%, but their revenue is expected to be up about 5.9% overall relative to a year ago. So we'll have to see how this ends up going, at least for them moving forward. Just wanted to call this out. The market still has some greed as buyers are still present. Momentum is still great. It's kind of flat right now, but there is some fear building right here. The puts and call option ratio is just barely at neutral. We did see a little bit more put buying than before, and the VIX is neutral, just waiting for some big data. So that being said, just as one final reminder, tomorrow, okay, what's going to affect the market is going to be PayPal's earnings in the morning. Then 30 minutes after the market opens, then we have the JOLTS job openings, job quits, and all that data as well. So just keep that in mind. This will also affect Tesla. Now let's talk about what's happening with the share prices. So Tesla obviously is not looking that great. We did see a bit of a dip, especially after the news about the three board members selling shares. So we look a little bit more bearish right here because we lost 262 as our main support. It's not the best of signs. Now, if we're bullish, you want to see Tesla reclaim 265. If 265 is reclaimed, we're looking for a push back up towards 268 plus. And then if we can't reclaim 270, we're still at risk of downside. I called out 270 to 272 being a tough resistance area. We did try to break it, getting close to about 276, but then Tesla came short of 278. And then we ended up failing to hold above 270. So this means because we're struggling to do that, Tesla is due for a little bit of a dip right over here, and we may continue to dip even lower. So we're going to be looking at these key levels. Look at 262 and 265 as our resistance areas, and our support right now is at 260. If 260 fails us, expect us to come all the way down to where this imbalance is very close to about that 256 area, followed by 252, and then 250 at our 20 EMA. So make sure you watch those levels of support. Basically 256, 252, and then 250 as the main supports for Tesla. We'll have to see if Tesla could hold those levels or not. Now for resistance, make sure you watch 262, 265, and 268, followed by 270. Those are going to be your very, very key levels for the way that this thing is moving. So in my opinion, what's happening is we look more bearish right here as we're about to get a PPO crossover, and Tesla was due for a bit of a pullback after all the upside we saw. This may depend on PayPal's earnings, but from a technical standpoint, we do look more bearish. The odds favor this kind of like seeing a little reactive move for more liquidity to be grabbed at 262. Potentially a dip lower if 260 fails us to 265 at 256, excuse me, at the very least. 256 could be coming for more downside for Tesla, so look for the 250s to be coming very soon. And we'll see if Tesla bounces off the 250 area or not, but look for more downside back down to at least this imbalance at 256 as there's some weakness building on the charts. That's the most likely move based off technical analysis. We'll see how PayPal affects us. For SPY, we have this gap over here. Just know this, guys. So as far as SPY goes, if you look at the 4-hour time frame, if we're bullish after PayPal's earnings, you're going to be looking for an attempt to get back up to about 582, which if we break, we're looking for 584. If we're bearish and we lose 580.6, we're looking for 579.6, followed by the 578 area or below that for a bigger dip. In my opinion, looking at SPY on the 4-hour time frame, the most likely move is we pop a bit, then start dipping back down to fill this gap around the 579 area or even below that. That's the most likely case. So we'll just have to see how things end up going for SPY, but we are favoring downside a little bit more. For ES looks a little bit more bearish. We have 58.65 as our resistance, followed by 58.80. And if we don't hold above that, we're looking for a dip back down towards 58.50. So I think the odds are favoring the downside. The technicals are looking kind of weak because we pumped, rejected, pumped, rejected, pumped, rejected over and over and over again. So we're favoring that gap fill below. Now, whether or not that happens depends on what kind of earnings end up coming out with for PayPal. So we'll just have to see about that. But nonetheless, we still look more bearish for a dip all the way down to about 58.47. As far as Tesla goes, don't forget this is also going to be affected by the broader markets. That's why it's very important to watch the Nasdaq and the others. For Nvidia, we look a little bit more bearish because I called out that 144 is a tough resistance. Every time we're hitting 144, we keep rejecting, rejecting, rejecting. So it's going to be very, very tough for the stock. Now, if we don't hold above 140, the odds are favoring us dipping back down towards 138. If we break past 140, we're looking for a pushback up for 143. I think the odds favor us dipping all the way down towards 138. So give this the time it needs, and we'll see how things end up developing from here. But that's going to be key for the way that we end up moving forward. So look for some downside for 140 then 138 as most likely targets. 70,000 is a tough resistance on Bitcoin. If we break that, we're looking for 70,500. And if we don't hold above 70,000, we're looking for a dip back down towards 69,000. I think that 70,000 is a tough resistance. We might actually see Bitcoin slow down from there. So maybe we can come back down to about 69,000. This also depends on PayPal's earnings, but just keep that in mind. For NQ, we're dipping a little bit. If we're bullish after PayPal's earnings, we're looking for a break of 20,600 to turn back up. If we're bearish, you want to see it lose 20,450 to start dipping to 20,400 or below. My guts is telling me we're going to be looking for 20,450 as our next target. If that fails us, we're looking for a bigger dip. So we'll see if that ends up being the case. For the QQQ, we're looking at the support as 494 and then 492.78. I think the odds favor the downside, so this might start dipping a little bit lower. So give this more time as we end up developing. As far as Aapl goes, Apple's kind of rejecting right over here. We'll be looking for 231. So we could actually be dipping a little bit lower all the way down to like 231 or so. We kind of pumped here and rejected, pumped and rejected, pumped and rejected many times. So the odds are now favoring this downside move towards 230. So give this the time it needs. As far as Netflix goes, Netflix has a kind of like a double top like structure. We could be dipping a little bit lower. We're looking at 752 as our resistance, and we can't hold above that. We're looking for a dip back down towards 744 and then 742. So Netflix is getting a rejection here. I think the odds favor 742 as our target. So there might be some downside coming, so give this the time it needs. That's the most likely case in my personal opinion. CELH or Celsius is continuing to dump, getting rejections right over here. Notice that we have a double top right here off our 50 EMA, so we really struggle to break past 32. This is favoring downside nonetheless because of that. So, in my opinion, if we don't get back above 31.67, we're favoring a move back down as the most likely case for 30.8, followed by the, I would say, lower 30s. So that's most likely coming very, very soon. That's what I'm favoring, at least for the time being. For others out there, we also have Palantir. It did a good job at pushing very nicely to 45.5. If we can't hold above that, we're looking for a move back down. So look at the support right here at 44.5 as our target. This is our zone right over here. If it does not hold 44.5, we're looking for 43.96 as our next target. As of right now, from a technical standpoint, the big bar that's forming, we are favoring a turn back down below 44. So just be very mindful of that as a very probable case. For Supermicro, we popped a bit. We're going to be watching to see if we hold above 48 to shift back up to 49. If we reject off 48, we're looking for 46.76. My gut tells me this might pop a bit and start dipping to the 46.7 area, so give it some time. For Rivian, we pumped very nicely to about 11. Now we're rejecting right over here. We're looking for 10.8 as our target. If this fails us, we're looking for a dip back down towards 10.6. Then we have 11 as our resistance, so I think the odds are favoring some downside for 10.6 as the most likely case. For SoFi, we basically have this resistance around this 11.25 area. And if we can't hold above that, I'm looking for basically 10.8 as our potential target. For the IWM Russell 2000, we pumped very nicely to about 223. If it rejects here, we're looking for a move back down to 221. If it holds here, we're looking for a push to about 24. As of right now, it's a little bit more bullish. It does favor that it might be going a little higher for 223.5. But if we get that rejection, we don't hold above 223, we're going to be dipping back down to 221. So look for a push a little bit higher and see if it fails to hold. If that's the case, we're going to be dipping a little bit lower. For AMD, we're looking bullish as of right now. It might push a little bit higher to about 162. But once we get that rejection, I think it will eventually get some kind of rejection, but we're not ready quite yet. We had some bullish news that came out, so we're going to be looking for a push back up towards 162. And if we don't end up holding above 160, we're looking for a dip back down to 159. I find that to be very, very probable. For ARM, we're doing a good job at holding up. We have 152 as our resistance, and if we can't hold above that, we're looking for a dip back down to 147, followed by 146.87. I think that as we're hitting this resistance, we could be dipping back down towards 146.87, and we'll see if we bounce or not. So I think 146 to 147 is most likely coming. For coin, we look more bullish as we're holding support very nicely. We could be looking for 220 as our potential target, but just be careful because 220 is a tough resistance. So we'll see what kind of reaction we get from here. For Amazon, Amazon has been dipping a little bit. We're gonna be watching to see if we can get back above 189. Otherwise, the odds are favoring 187.8. So look for a little bit more downside from there. For Meta, we pushed very nicely to 580, and then we have support at 576.5. If that fails us, we're looking for a dip back down towards 573. So look for a little pop to 580, and then we'll see if we reject or not for a little bit of a dip. But overall, it's very indecisive. It's just trading sideways relative to the market. So this is actually holding up quite well, just trading sideways, not really doing much. That's what I'm seeing, at least for the time being. For a few more, we have kind of like a bearish divergence developing on Microsoft, so it's going to be dipping to about 425. If it bounces off this, we're looking for a push back up to 430, and if 425 fails us, we're looking for a dip down to 423. Look for a dip to 425.85 or below. I do think it's going to be dipping a little bit lower by at least a point, maybe a little bit more than that, and we'll see how it ends up reacting. For Google, we look a little bit more bullish with this wick forming. As long as we don't lose 168, we're favoring a pushback up to 170. But if 168 fails us, we're looking for 166.8. So watch to see how this ends up going and give this the time that it needs. For DJT, we look more bullish. We're going to be approaching 50 very soon. Look for more upside and give this the time it needs. For the VIX, we look a little bit more bullish. We'll have to see if we break past 20 or not. But overall, we're just going to give this more time. We'll see if this tries to pump or not as well. For the 10-year Treasury yield, we are attempting to push a little bit higher as well. We'll have to see if this continues, but it's not really affecting the market as much as it has in the past. So I'm not really as worried about this. And then for the dollar index, we see the same thing essentially going on. The dollar is also kind of just trading sideways, not really doing much. So we just have to give this more time to develop. So anyways, guys, that's pretty much it for my video. As far as the way the market's moving, there's not really a whole lot that's going on. I just want to say that the market is just remaining very stagnant. We're just waiting for earnings to cause some big moves. So Tesla, of all things, is looking a little bit more bearish because of the fact that it's been dipping quite a bit right over here. We've been seeing Tesla dip more and more and more, so don't worry too much about this, especially if 260 breaks. So look for a pop in the morning to grab liquidity, then potentially a little bit more downside, especially after the news about Kimball Musk and the other board members selling shares. And then we'll see what the reaction happens to be. Just remember one thing, guys. This is my best, my best attempt to predict how the market's going to move based off technical analysis. But there's only so much I could do on a day like this, and even like a week like this, because the market's moving based off earnings. I can't always predict those, so sometimes I could be incorrect about these predictions. But I'll do the best I can based off technicals, which do tend to be right the majority of the time, and we'll see how things end up going. All right, so for now, just follow the levels I called out, and we'll see how things end up going for PayPal's earnings. I wish them all the best, and we'll see how things end up developing. I thank you all so much for listening. Please have a great day, night, or evening, wherever you guys are around the world. And I'll be back very soon tomorrow before the market opens in the US to give you guys another update. Thanks again. Have a good night, and peace out.